はい。まあ、いきなりちょっと失礼しました。はい。改めまして、こんばんは。スタンリーパラブルウルトラデラックスの4回目やっていきましょう。で、前回立ち上げて、時間合わせてくれって言われて、時間合わせたら、なんか、なんだっけ、データを集めるのはいいことですよね。スライダーをもっと次ゲーム立ち上げた時にスライダーたくさん用意しておきますよとかよくわかんないこと言われたんですけど、まあ早速その用意してきたスライダー出してきたんですかね。ゲーム立ち上げたらパソコンがギリギリ見えるくらいまでスライダーを調整してくださいと。一回やらんかったっけ？なんかギリギリ見えるで合わせるとこれなんだけど、配信のこと考えてるとちょっと明るめぐらいのがいいよねみたいなことを言った気がする。まあ、こんなもんでしょう。確認、ポンと。えこの犬と猫が友達になるようにスライダーを調節してください。ごめん、意味がわからないんですが。てーてー。じゃあ、はい。5が9になるまでスライダーを調節してください。え ?9。9になるまでって。ちょいちょい9がありますけど、これも9だし、これも9だよね。ごめんごめん、俺は何をやらされてるの今これ。あなたがスライダーの調節を止めるまでスライダーを調節してください。この2つの造語のどちらがあなたにとって魅力的ですか？オッキュボインカール、スクラムティッシュ。ボインかな？ボインは魅力的だよね。スライダースライダーを調節しないでください。はい。はい。今何時か分かりますか？もう分かりますよ。右上に時計出しとるしな。その現在の時刻は正しい時間ですか？まあ正しいんじゃないの？そもそも時間って何なんでしょうか？いや、それを答えるには、はいといいえはちょっとシンプルすぎないか？はい、はい。あなた自身のことで私にまだ何か言ってないことがありますか？そんなのありまくりだろう。名前とかも言ってないしな。名前、年齢、職業、現在、住所、その他もろもろ。助け、何怖いんですけど。まあ、はい。また私を訪ねてきてくれますか？いや、どうだろうな。俺、今回、完結かなって勝手に思ってるんだけど、まあ、はいにしとく。ごめん。俺は今のスライダーとはい、家の質問にどういうリアクションを取るのが配信的に正しかったんだ。こういう時トーク力とアドリブ力を求められるよね。まあそんなのないんですけどね。はい、というわけでね、スタンリーパラブル2。前回、ニュー、ニューコンテンツ、噛んだわけじゃないよ。ニューコンテンツを進めてったら、まあナレーターくんが、スタンリーパラブル、今までのものに新しい要素をいろいろ付け加えてみたよ。さあ、付け加えた結果を ご覧あれで出てきたのが、スタンリーパラボル2でした。ウルトラデラックスくんどこ行っちゃったのやら。というわけで、まあ、ここが肝なんだろうなと思って一旦配信を前回区切ったわけでして、まあ、死の今度言わずにやっていきましょうか。では、スタンリーパラボル2、ゲームを始める。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order.This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid,Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
風船風船よ。ちょっと今ムービー見ながら一言目なんて発しようかなって考えてたんですけどダメだな。いい単語が出てこなかったな。ナレーターくんが考えた新要素のね、風船を配置がどうのこうのって。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
でビジュアル的な差しかないんじゃないだろうな、まさか。
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
ちょっと待ってね、それでいくとさ、どっかに、あれじゃないの、なんだっけ、人形？どっかに人形あるんじゃねえの？ねえ。とりあえずちょっと探しながら行ってみますか。とりあえず風船以外に何のバケツ
Stanley picked up the bucket.
バケツきたー。新要素バケツくん。前回すごいなんかね、このバケツがすげえ目玉コンテンツだみたいなこと言ってたけど、ニューコンテンツはないね、さすがに。バケツ置いたりはできないな。手放せないのな、このバケツ。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
バケツを強く胸に抱き。まあ、一旦、正規ルートというか、言われた通りルートを行ってみようか。何事も基本が大事よね。とか言いながらどっかが開いたりしないかな。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
バケツにぬくもりはないだろう。まあ、 手に何か持ってるだけで安心感みたいなものは得られるかもしれないけどね、もしかしたら。物置は開く？ああ、開くね。
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs
メッセージ途中で切っちゃった。ごめんね。せっかくのナレーターさんの名演技を途中で切ってしまいました。あれトイレが。あれこれ開いたっけ前。でもどうする開いちゃった以上気になるな。To be rich is it a crime? To commit まあ、
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
なんつうか、押し付けがましいんだよな。鏡は映んない。この人形のためだけにこのトイレ作ったんか。そうですか。あと、あれだろうな。前のステージで拾った1個は、有効なのね。わかんない。どうも、双葉さん、こんにちは、こんばんは。じゃあ、いつも通り入ってみるか。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation,
また番号忘れちゃった
Stanley may have
な。
broken down into an
なんだっ
emotional
け。
dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours,
ナレーター、めちゃくちゃバケツ押してくるな。
clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the pin number for the keypad was 2845.
どうし、なんだっけ。やべ。45だっけ。
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the
あれ
bucket
前回となん
calling
か
him?、
一緒か。びっくりし
Yes,
た。
this is certainly the most logical explanation.
ナレーターくんはなんでそんなにバケツに思い入れをね バケツのぬくもりね。バケツにぬくもりはないですよね。あった人形。
Another miniature Stanley figurine. There really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about
い
Stanley?
や、先に決めとけ
I
っ
think I
て。
like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
ここまでバケツとフィギュアと風船以外全く一緒なんだが。
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
そんなに
Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
いや、もうこうなってくるとちょっと病気ですよ。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
バケツとは哲学。いや、本当にね。まあまあまあね、人によってはね、そらな。もうバケツ超大事だって人もいるかもしれないですけどね。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
すげえな。多分この、一番ドタマの部分、一番ドタマっていうかこのバケツの一言を加えるためにナレーション取り直してるんだと思うんですけど。まあ、えらい労力だな。
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
やべえな、バケツくん結構ピュアだな。スタンリーがちょっとあれじゃないか、頼もしくなっちゃってるじゃないか。
Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
バケツくん擬人化決定。やばい、薄い本が出てしまう。
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter.His one friend in the entire world.
マジで
At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
バケツくん、いいやつすぎるやろ。
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place.And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way. The bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
よし、行くぜ、バケツくん。やべえな、俺もちょっとバケツ好きになってきた気がするぞ、これなんか。
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
よし、行くぜ、バケツ。スイッチオフ。
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness.Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate.Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support.
バケツとの同棲生活始まっちゃう。
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
An
unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket.
ちょっと待って、そんな重要人物バケツ。
No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
まさかのバケツくんと暗闇の中で一生過ごすエンド。バケツくんすごい。まさかね、そんな重要人物だったとは。なんだ、またバケツバケツ持ったまんまあれか別のルートを行く。あれなんか張り紙貼ったんだな。これ貼っとったっけ。覚えてないな。さあ、そしてまたバケツくんがいるわけですが。じゃあまあ、これ拾わないとかもありなのかなでもせっかくの新コンテンツの目玉の一つだからな。じゃあバケツくん持ったまま別ルート行ってみるか。左行って階段下降りるルート。あれなんか違う。完全攻略主義者の本能を信じて。ちょっと待って、なんか怖いんだけど。全部見つけると報酬があります。ミッションステータス。続編の展示内部、広い部屋、たくさんの箱、階段に関係するもの、青と赤の両方があるとこ、暖炉の近く、重要人物のプライベートな場所。だが臭い。でも、1、5、6はもうチェックがついてるな。じゃ、2、3、4。広い部屋たくさん。この絵面、主人公はバケツくんに見えますね。確かに。階段。全部見つけると報酬があります。階段は上下の階段でいいのかな。赤と青の両方があるところは扉の話だよね。広い部屋たくさんの箱ってなんだろうな。サンキューグッドラック。てっきりなんかこのバケツを持ったまんまなんかいろんなルート行くと、まあ今までのその無印版のエンディングにちょっとバケツが加わるみたいなぐらいのノリかと思ってたら、階段下降りるか。じゃあ
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just
これ
couldn't do
は
it.
あれだよね。
He considered the possibility of facing his boss,
頭
admitting
お
he
か
had
しくなっ
left his
て
post during
ビルから
work
飛び
hours.
降りあれ
Fine for that. And in such a competitive
ああ、いい
economy,
のか。
why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
あれでもルートが違う気がするな。
Something occurred to Stanley.
あ、いや、一緒か。
Maybe, he thought to himself,
あ、一緒だ
maybe
な。
I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me.
マジで。バケツくんすんげえ友達
He
やん。
held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal...
なんだって
someone else's bucket, perhaps.
俺
How
の
did
バ
I
ケ
end
ツ
up
じゃ
with
ない
someone
だ
else's
と
bucket?
かっ
This is
こ
all
棒
terribly wrong. Surely no
あれ
good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre
バケツ
hallucinations
捨てちゃった
Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far
バケツを
off in the distance,
バケツを探せ
calling to him. Stanley, Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
どっかにあんのかな
He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket
See.
after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket. Come to me, Stanley. Find me. He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his
お
sanity.
バケツいっぱい
Then suddenly, he froze dead in
俺の
his
バケツは
He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
ヒロイン枠のバケツくんまさかのね
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk
お前もバケツ持っ
was
とん
interrupted
か
by
い
the voice of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for
あ
this. There were a myriad of confusing
人類みんな
problems
バケツが大事
she
か
would soon have to go through work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself. My life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
ちょっと待ってバク転で仕事場へ戻っていきましたって何ごめん最後に気になる文章残さないでやってくれないかなバケツがないと狂ってしまう世界線やだそんな世界線そんな世界線やだ
All of his co-workers
じゃあやっ
were
ぱ
gone.
バケツは毎回拾わないとダメか
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had the confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
これでさっきのミーティングルームの
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered
あーで
the door
も
on his left.
左行っちゃうとあれだもんなミーティングルーム行っちゃったら赤と青の扉見れないも
This
ん
was
な
not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
やるやんけバケツくんさて
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
ここで地下降りるとどういうエンドだったっけ？こっち行くとあれか、赤ちゃん焼くルートか。うわー、何こ何このシュールな絵面。
We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
前も思ってたけどさナレーターくん、なんていうの、ゲームを作ることへの意欲は人一倍なんだけど、とにかくセンスがないんだよな私たちはあなたを大切に思っていますよ、スタンリー。多分今の会話の流れだと、ここに今1作目の全キャラクターじゃねえや、あれを用意したみたいなことなんだと思うんだけど、これ暖炉なんかあったっけ？暖炉覚えてないな。とりあえずラインテンション高っ出た出た出た久しぶりだな BGM。 前回以来か。いいんだか良くないんだか分かんない BGM。 テンションだけは無駄に高え。早っ
Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue? Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
何かを諦める。こっちはだからなんか無印スタンリーパラブルを思い返そうルートみたいなこと？もうめっちゃ地下潜るやん。マップ広。こっちのルートはちょっと最後に取っとくべきだったか？
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
Bucket Destroyer.
Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
ここまで一緒に冒険してきたバケツくんをデストロイしろだって。
Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the bucket destroyer is getting very upset now.
入れられないんだけど。
We can't get back to the classic Stanley parable characters like the Adventure Line or the bucket.
いや、バケツくん捨てられないけど。
Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and go.
ああ。何？
The bucket destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
何ちょっと感動の結末みたいな感じにしとんねん。だって捨てれなかったよ。そして時は戻る。捨てれたのかな。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
これバケツ無視してったらどうなんのかな。さよならバケツデストロイヤーね。せっかくの新キャラがね見せ場もないままに。バケツを置いてってみるか、あえて。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the
ああ、
meeting
でも
room, and Stanley
そしたらバケツ云々のくだり
Perhaps he
が
wanted to stop by the employee lounge first,
なくなっ
just to
たな、
admire it.
文章から。
Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first
ああ、やっ
open
ぱ
door
バ
on
ケ
his
ツ持
left.
たないと新展開はないか。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I
これ
realize
これいつも通りだ
investing
もん
trust in
な。あーやっぱ
someone
バケツは
else
拾わないとダメか
But
な。
the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been
ちょっ
neglecting,
と待って、
Stanley.
これやっぱバケツは拾いましょう。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ちょっと一回ミーティングルーム行くか。そのミッションが進んだかどうかちょっと気になるな。
He entered the door on his left.
最悪やり直しゃいいし。あ、変わってねえな。2、3、4。あれ、てっきり3、さっきの3が埋まったかなと思ったんだけど、違うのか。6とかが埋まっちゃってるのもよくわかんねえけどな。まあいいや、ちょっと、バケツ拾って赤扉、青
How
扉
long
行く
was
か。
I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days?
なんかメッ
Centuries?
セージが違うな。
Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
あれなんかメッセージが今違ったな。読み飛ばしちゃったけど。
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
彼は家へ帰っていきました。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left.
やっぱデストロイヤーにバケツ捨てられたのかな。
No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
バケツこんな喋り方なの。
Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do. Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about
あれ
this.
急にナレーターがまともな
He
こと言
was
い始め
firmly
とるぞ。
convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
あれバケツないときはね、こっち来る
In here,
と、
said the bucket. Go into this dark room over here. Stanley
なんで
once
言うこと
again
聞かないの
obeyed
みたいなこと
blindly.
超言われたのに、まるでこうするのが正しいかのような。
Now pick up the phone, said the bucket. Pick up the phone, and it will take us back
ああ、
home
家
where
に
we
帰
can
る。
go
はい
about
はいは
life
い。
together.
じゃあ電話出てみるか。
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
マジで家も428なの？バケツくんただいま。ハロースタンリー、僕だよ。君のバケツだよ。僕を君と戻すために左を押して。僕を君と戻すために。
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
やべえ、ちょっと待って、なんか悲しくなってきた。なんだろう、なんだか。僕を君のお家へ連れて帰るためにYを押して。
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
ちょっと、あれ、なんだろう、すげえ悲しい展開になってきたんだが。本題へ戻るために左を押して。
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
このうるさい男の言うことは聞くな。僕がお家へ帰るために Y を押して。
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
ちょっと待って、このナレーターさ、ちょっとバケツに嫉妬してない？やだ、ナレーターとバケツで三角関係？君の人生で僕以外全員を無視するために A を押して。
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
僕が実在するって信じてるんだよね、スタンリー。家へ帰るために下を押して。
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
バケツくん。X を押すとこの同じ日を何度も僕と繰り返せるよ。ちょっとメンヘラ入ってる？
Oh my god, what am I saying? Better at carrying
怖い。
water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
家へ仕事へ、家へ仕事へ、家へ帰るために上を押せ。
Oh no. I'm having feelings. For the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
怖い怖いんだけど。
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
三角関係。戻ろう、スタンリー。ホラー展開でしたな。ちょっと待って、大丈夫か？このままバケツに依存し続けていいんだろうか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed.
でもダメだ、もうバケツの。
He'd never be alone again. Not truly alone. Not with the bucket around.
もうバケツの魅力から僕は離れられないのかもしれない。なんてこったい。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the
このゲームバケツゲームだったか。
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no?
あとは電話線引っこ抜きと、あれ電話線引っこ抜きはどういうエンディングだったっけな。
No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the good, said the bucket.
でも
Now ride the lift all the way to the top.
今のエンディングが待ってるんだって考えたら、そらバケツくんこのリフトに乗せて上行かせたがるよな。だってバケツにしてみればスタンリーと2人で暮らすチャンスなわけだしね。
In here, said the bucket. Go into this dark room over here. Stanley once again obeyed.
とりあえず電話線引っこ抜くか。
Now pick up the phone. Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket. Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the
急にバケツのこと突き放すやん。
Seriously, where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is.
なんかビデオ流れるんだっけ？
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half. pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now. Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management,
こ
which
のビ
is
デオ
the
飛ばしていいです
cornerstone
か
of good comedy.
飛ばしたい
Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme. Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
とりあえず戻るか
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure.
あのビデオを見て
Stanley. The bucket spoke.
俺がキングオブコメディになれるぞと思ってるやつは一生キングオブコメディにはなれないと思うけどなあれこっちこのルートってどういうエンディングだったっけもう
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
これあれか世界壊れるエンドだったっけあれこんなんだったっけあれ電話のとこに戻ってくる初めてのパターンだな
There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land, or not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think...
いやいやもうビデオはいいよもうビデオはいいんじゃないか
Instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
どうしよう
What? We're back at the phone already? No.
あれ
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket
ああ、
came to
こ
a
れ
set
は
of
もう
two
電
open doors,
話
they entered the door on the left.
前回もでもループに入っちゃうのは前も一緒だったよな。
We're
はい
back
はい
at
はい
the
はい
Sunday
はいはい
really?
はい。
No, no, no. Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on
じゃあ
the left.
左行くか。
No, 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 no. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think
いや
this
だ
is
って言
all
ったら
covered very clearly. There's no way I
言
can
っ
make
た
the
ら
comedic
繰り
timing
返され
work
ちゃう
now.
から。
It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much.
はいはいはいはいはい。
It's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale
あ、
in
俺があれだ。
comparison.
1回目の時にやめたエンディングだ。
Let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal, I think I saw it playing guitar. No. No,
そういえ
no,
ば
no. We're getting
あれだ
away
な。
from making fun of
スタン
Stanley's
リー
obsession with the bucket,
人
which is not
形
pointed. I'm no good at these
見つかってないな。
I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional
ごめんね
videos.
リロイ。
Let's see. Let's see.
リロイってなんだ。さあまた戻ってきましたが、あとは右進んで
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
バケツ拾うたびにセリフ違くない？コンピューターとかもよくわかんねえんだよな。あとはリフトから飛び降りてあれか別のルート行くやつだ。あとあれか通常ルートでエスケープに進むやつもまだやってないんだよな。とりあえずちょっと分かってる分岐を片っ端から潰していきましょうか。これ飛び降りごめんなさい飛び降り自殺エンドみたいなのもあったよな確か。飛び降りるか。
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
意外と細かいですねこのゲーム。いや本当ですね。あれ部屋が違う。
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly
もう
fine
完
with
璧
him.
にバケツの間に信頼関係がバディになってしまっている。途中なんもないよな。途中のオフィスが丸々省略されてしまってるが。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
なんか変わったのかな。どうしよう。左行ってみるか。もしかしてあれかな、ミーティングルームのやつが進んだか。あ、いや変わってないか。 2、3、4のまんまだな。1個も進んでないのちょっとあれだな。なんか1個ぐらい埋まってほしいけど。じゃあもうこっち来ちゃったし、あれだ。普通に進んで、エスケープから脱出して、あれするやつ行こう。
Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk, nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
なんかな、さっきの部屋から出てルートが変わってるやつでなんかあるかと思ったけど、あれで、右行かなきゃいけなかったかもしかして。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
でも俺バケツとならどこまででも行ける気がする。
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
君と一緒にどこまでも。さあ行こうぜバケツ。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket.
急にバケツのことディスるやん。
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
この辺変わってはいないんだけどな。
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
あれバケツ持ってない。え、死んじゃったのバケツ。バケツ。大展示会のご来場お待ちしております。あなたは今知識の崖に立っています。人の精神はたびたびバケツのように空っぽになり、洞窟のような虚無感さえあります。しかし、あなたの目の前にある展示物を使うことで、心は豊かに満たされ具体化されます。このバケツの知識とその歴史は私たちが持つ唯一の真実の知識なのです。ここであなたが学んだことを世界に持ち出すつもりですか？この展示の情報について課題があるかもしれませんが、心を開いてくれますか？あなたの生活やあなたの大切な人をこの展示をきっかけに変えられますか？あなたは もしくはあなたは目を背け、道と暗闇の中で今までと同じように生きますか？ごめん、何書いてあるのか全然わかんない。何にもわからん。
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this
バケ
and
ツ
to
だ。
claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
いや、わかんねえな。25個のバケツ。この写真は史上最多である25個のバケツをカメラに収めたものです。この写真は一度にこれだけほどのたくさんのバケツを目の当たりにするという幸福感から数週間にわたり緊張性ショックを患いました。25個どこじゃなくない？っていうか、何このミュージアム。前回はまだゲーム CG のなんかね、開発の様子だったりとか、まだなんか意味がある感じだったけど、シュールすぎんだろ。地獄バケツ。何地獄バケツって。この魅力を持つバケツの支配をめぐり、数十カ国が戦争を引き起こしました。10億人もの命が落としたにもかかわらず、誰もバケツを支配できないという事実だけ残されています。そうバケツとは哲学。ほんとまたストレスバケツ。てか、制作者どうしちゃったの？そんなに、なんかバケツになんかあったんか。ちょっと待って、なんか BGM 流れ始めたんだが。
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
ちょっと待って。人類バケツに支配されちゃってる説ある？この作品は人間とバケツとの必要な関係性を象徴しています。どれほどバケツが我々の手中にあろうとも、まだまだ把握しきれていない部分がたくさんあるのです。この距離は私たち自身のために必然的にあるのです。ああ、ここ落ちんのか。バケツあれ落ちるんじゃないのか？
There is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world.
ちょっと待って、急に俺を殺しに来たぞ、ナレーションが。
If only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
バケツ世界征服エンド。さて。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
なんか変な音してない？なんか変な音してるよね。なんかあんのか？なんかできんの？なんだ？こんな音してたっけ？この窓からしてるっぽいけど。わかんねえな。
good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
バケツ拾うたびにメッセージ違うの受けるな。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly
あ
to his
と
chest
は
and entered the door.
右進んで、
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to
途
be.
中の通路に
And here it was. Had the bucket
飛び乗
turned
る
out
ルー
to be
ト。
correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
この通路の先があれだっけ、赤の扉、青の扉ルート
It
だっ
should
た
have
っけか。
alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
あれ、何も言わねえ。前はこっち来たら、なんでそっち行くのみたいなこと言われた。
No, stop.
あれ
Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you
バケ
actually
ツ禁
don't
止
know
っ
what
て。
is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a
Ooh.
moment.
ダメか。こっち行くしかないのね。暗い。暗い暗い。なんだここ。何ここ。これはバケツですか？
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
え？
Item 1. Is this a bucket?
おお。え？いや、バケツでしょ？
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket.
わからねえよ。
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
今度こそバケツでしょ。かっこ棒。
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
それでもバケツはバケツなんちゃうんか。
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
いやー、これはバケツだよ。
Correct.
あ、当たっちゃっ
This
た。
is a bucket.
あ、いやいや、ここは違うっていうとこちゃうんか。
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
あれ、どう答えるのが正解？いろんな意味で。これはいろんな意味で難しい問題ですね。俺はどうなんだ、ゲーム的に配信的に、まあ、ずっと丸できたから丸にしてみる。
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous
いや、
machine that
至
fills
極
the
普
earth.
通に突っ込まれた。
How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
いたっ って普通に突っ込まれた。
Is this a bucket?
いや、ここまで来たら付き合ってやろうじゃねえか、この野郎。
Correct.
いや、説明を求む。
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
両方。
Item. Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
はよせえや。え
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket. We
何も
both
ない
clearly
があ
know
る。
that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
はい。俺もよくわからんわ、もう。
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments
お
ago
前
I
だって
could
相
answer
当
these
だっただ
questions
ろ
with
う。
confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
こんな
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had. to
頭
begin
おか
with.
しいなるで。
I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my god, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now.
か
It's
こ
still,
の
I
ゲーム
thought
は
some clarity on that issue.
バケツに
It
始ま
doesn't
って
change
バ
the
ケツに終わるゲームだ
fact
っ
that
た
we haven't got
か。
a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
世界の真実を知ってしまったな。世界はバケツだったか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あれ、
No
こ
matter
こか
how
らも
hard
落とすん
Stanley
な。
looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
窓なんか落とすんのか。あれ、今までしてたか。で、結局、あれだな、スタンリー人形も、2つ目以降が見つからん。どっか開く扉あんのか、もしかして。さっきもあれだもんな、トイレが開かなくって、あ、違う違う。今まで開かなかったトイレ開けたら人形があったから、どっか開く扉増えてんのか。その可能性ちょっとあるな。開かねえな。
literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
ダメか。で、あそこ奥行けなくなっちゃったってことは、赤扉を、あれバケツ拾わずに赤扉、青扉バケツ持ってたらあの奥行けないんだもんな。でもバケツ持たなかったらルート変わんないんじゃないのか。
And here it was,
うー
the lounge.
ん。
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
でもどうだろうな、展開変わんの
Look,
か
Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong
なんか
foot.
良くも悪くもバケツを持ってる持ってないがフラグなんだと思うんだけ
I
ど、
realize that investing in your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Really?
うーん、一緒だよ
Do you have
な。
zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you.
あ
To
ー、で
show
も
you
ノー
something
バケツって書いて
beautiful.
あるわ。
Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
あれあ、
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm torn between Stanlerines
あれ
and
これあれ
What
か
do you think? What
す
name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small
今更
number
だ
in the corner
今
of
更
your
だけど、なんか
screen
ずっ
you're
と
by
勘違
now.
いしてたけど、
I'm sure it will come to
ミー
me.
ティングルームの撮った撮ってないこの人形のある場所のヒントの話かぽいなぁ。多分これでさっきのミーティングルームの赤と青の下りのところ一本線増えただろう多分。
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that
でも
isn't
人形
here.
を集めても何にも得点ないよって
Running
書いてあっ
just the
た
way
け
you're
ど、
doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I just
やっぱなんかあるのか
stop. We would both be so
なるほど。
much
いや、
happier
多分
if
そ
we
う、
just
おそらくですけどね。
And I think, well,
あ、
I
でも
think
こ
I
うな
have
る
a
とちょっと
solution.
待ってくれ。だったらこれもう戻っちゃった方がいいかな。これでちょっとミーティングルーム見に行こ
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
う。となると、なんだっけ、
Stanley came to a
ミ
set
ュ
of
ージア
doors.
ム
He entered
も
the door on his left.
バケツ持たずに普通にミュージアム行く感じか。ほらほら、増えた増えた。やっぱそうだ。2と3。広い部屋、たくさんの箱、階段に関係するもの。階段に関係するもの、広い部屋、たくさんの箱。広い部屋、たくさんの箱？階段に関係するもの。だから一番の続編の展示内部っていうのは多分一番最初に拾った2が始まる前のところのやつだよね多分。で4番の赤と青の両方があるとかさっきの扉のところ、5番の暖炉の近くはなんか過去の総集編みたいな部屋のところ、重要人物のプライベートな場所だが臭いはトイレってことか。はいはいはい、なるほどね。2番と3番どこだ？階段あれか、飛び降りるところか。階段登って飛び降り自殺のところ。あそこどうやって行くんだっけ。ごめんなさい。すいません、ちょっと水飲んだら変なとこ入っちゃった水。ト 飛び降り自殺ルートは、広い部屋たくさんの箱ってのもわかんねえな。どうのことだ？広い部屋たくさんの箱。箱がある広い部屋？箱ってなんだ？広い部屋。
Stanley came to a set of two open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
ラウンジかなって一瞬思ったけど、箱なんかないもんな、でもここ。ああ、ここじゃないな、多分。
Yes, really,
広い部屋。
A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers are mysterious but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
広い部屋。ここにヒントあったりとかしないかな。ないか。たくさんの箱。わかんねえな。1時間半か。ちょっとこの辺にしとくか、今日。で、自分の過去動画見て、ちょっと当たりをつけとこうかな。階段は、なんか、もう、飛び降り何回かして死ぬエンドみたいなルートが確か1個あったんで、あそこの階段じゃないかなと思ってるんだけど、ちょっと生き方が思い出せないんで、ちょっと動画見て復習しときます。広い部屋たくさんの箱がわからん。なんかあったっけ、そんな部屋。ちょっとこれも一応自分の動画見直しとくかな。はい。というわけで、ちょっと今日クリアするつもりでいたんですけれど、まさかここに来ての探索ゲームが始まるという。まあでも、新要素か。やべえな。普通に新要素を楽しんでる俺がいる。はい。というわけで、まあ、次回こそ最終回にしようかなと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。はい。というわけで、双葉さんもいつもコメントありがとうございます。はい。というわけで、ザ・スタンリー・パラブラ、ウルトラダックス、また次回の配信でお会いしましょう。お疲れ様でした。